Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the ESL UK Premiership Week 6. We're here with our third game in our final best of three. What a best of three it has been. Exertus Esports up against exceL, and it has been going absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I mean, whew, after that first game was all it was all Exertus, and then that second game it was all exceL. These guys came back swinging in both games. First game, one mistake snowballed the entire game, and it was just a huge snowball coming out from Exertus, and then it was difficult for exceL to make their way back into it because of the composition that they had.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see if the same thing's going to happen. I feel like both games were fairly one-sided. The second one was a little bit more even. Apologies if you're hearing the audio issues that me and my co-caster are hearing here, but we are going to be seeing the bans already starting to rattle on out. We have Shen, Gangplank, and Tristana, followed by Fiora, Irelia, and Rek'Sai. Now, Flaxish hovering the Akali. It's not going to be locked in. It is going to be the Lulu coming through. Lulu first pick. First time we've seen it locked in here.
I think, if anyone noticed, I think I've subtly managed to sort the audio.
It was so subtle.
It was really subtle, right? So basically, in the last two games, we've seen Lulu has been banned every time because both Brixton and Flaxish love that Lulu. And I think maybe exceL will realise that that's not a priority for them, and they've gone for the Lucian and the Braum again. They were such a strong combo in that bot lane. Now we're going to see what Exertus decide to pick up here. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Gangplank come through on this rotation just so that Billy doesn't get it. Yeah,
well, that would not be at all surprising, but Gangplank has in fact been banned out, unfortunately. You were distracted.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I was distracted by the audio issue.
I'm not going to hold that one against you. That one's okay. But
I was, but basically, guys, if you didn't realise, I was just subtly trying to wiggle an audio cable, so, paying so much attention. But I think I fixed it now. I am basically a multitasking caster. I'm also an audio engineer.
It's incredible.
An audio engineer in my spare time. An audio engineer. All that involves is wiggling cables.
It's true. I once met an audio engineer, and that's exactly what he told me. In fact, you are the audio engineer I met.
We usually have a guy called James do the audio engineering, and all he does is literally come and wiggle cables. He just goes, this looks like it'll work.
He's terrible for it. Even cables that are already working, he just wiggles them. He just gets a massive kick out of wiggling cables.
We've had some working cables, but James has replaced them, and now they're not working.
Anyway, let's get into the champion select. We have an Elise and a Thresh locked in. Once again, pick composition starting to form for Exertus Esports. And again, the Anivia is going to come through for Ped. We've got another Echo coming in for Nesquik. And honestly, exceL, they've pretty much got the exact same composition they were looking for last game.
Yeah, they said, okay, we did so well on that composition last time. Let's not change anything. Anivia on Ped. They did get the Lulu, so Brixton, we know Brixton loves Lulu. Brixton is a fantastic Lulu player, loves playing that. He'll probably run with that to mid, and if that's Darius, you can just imagine how scary these team fights are going to be from Exertus. Darius will survive longer, harder to kill, and also can basically dominate lane. So they're basically saying to Flaxis, here you go, buddy, go crazy. You can be a monster in lane, you can be a monster in teamfights, we'll have the backup for you in the form of Lulu as well. And Lulu and Darius combined with Sivir kind of fixes a lot of the problems that Darius has. Darius is low mobility. He has, the only thing he has to I guess, counter the mobility of other champions is the pull ability that he has, you know, the E, I can't remember what it's called for some reason. But the pull ability that Darius has is the only thing that can counter the sort of higher mobility champions. And he himself is quite a low movement speed, quite low mobility champion. Stick that with a Sivir, you can start running like crazy, and suddenly you're a madman with an axe, able to execute everybody left, right, and center. Then you have the slowdown with Lulu. So you run Darius in, you buff him up with the Lulu wild growth, and then he's suddenly a monster in the middle of these team fights.
And as well, the amount of healing that he's going to be able to get when he's up close and personal to your team, it's not something you want to deal with.
They've actually changed it so that it used to be, if you hit someone with Decimate, it would be 15% per champion hit at a maximum of 30%, meaning he was better in smaller skirmishes. Now they've changed it to 12% per champion hit, up to a maximum of 36%. So he actually becomes more valuable in larger team fights now. So you can get a decimate in the middle of a team fight. You're healing up 36% of your health in one swing.
Which, especially when you've built tanky, is a huge deal.
Get a bit of cooldown reduction. You could probably get at least 2 of those down before you're dead, and then you're still cycling your health. Billy going to be on a champion that he is incredibly favoured with. It's going to be the Malphite.
Yeah.
Now, I actually think
I mean, we talked about it.
Yeah, we did, and you mentioned it. And I think this is actually going to be a tough matchup for Billy. But it does fulfill a similar kind of role in the sense that actually they have a little bit more hard engage onto their control now as well. So, you know, you imagine that the parallel convergence comes down, the Nivea ultimate comes down, then you have the unstoppable force on top. You're actually looking to lock as many people up in that situation as possible. I think both teams have got very strong compositions. Exertus have tweaked it ever so slightly so that they're a little bit more favoured going into these controlled team fights than they were previously. I mean, I'm not saying they're completely favoured in a 5v5 against the exceL lineup, but going into these controlled team fights, they are going to be a little bit better off than they were with a Riven and an Ahri, because you send Darius in the middle there, he will actually be able to survive a lot of the early damage. Riven, you saw previously, was just getting blown up at the start of these team fights. Ped was doing ridiculous amounts of damage. But now you've got the Lulu ultimate, now you've got the heal from Darius. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to take that man out. He does suffer against the hard CC though. So you lock him up with Braum, you lock him up with the Nivea, you lock him up with Malphite or
basically
Echo.
every one of these champions.
Basically every one of these champions. He won't be able to get that decimate off. He won't be able to heal up that amount of health. So you chain that well, then you can still deal with the Darius. But I'm just a little bit worried here for the Exertus lineup. If they don't dominate, I'm struggling to see where their damage comes from.
And one of the issues as well is you say, if they don't dominate, Lulu mid doesn't typically dominate. Sivir AD carry doesn't typically dominate. They have, obviously, Darius up in the top lane, which is kind of a bit of a kill lane. You do want to be able to dominate your opponents.
Yeah.
And as well, at least, you are going to have the early pressure. But aside from that, their lanes aren't all that aggressive.
So no, Brixton, yes, he can get a kill onto Ped. Has to be incredibly a lot of poke basically coming out. He'll have to be doing it sustained over a lane. But even if he gets Ped into his passive, Lulu's never going to have the damage to take Ped down in the egg form. So I think Ped's going to be fairly safe in this lane. He'll have to be just keeping himself nice and passive, just farming those waves up like he did previously. Yes, Flaxish can get big, and yes, Flaxish can dominate, but should he go full damage route, he will be easy to take out, just like Riven was. Should he go semi-tanky, then he's still not a huge damage threat. Yes, he's a juggernaut. Yes, when he gets 5 stacks of Blood Rage, or 5 stacks of his Hemorrhage, and he gets the Blood Rage, yes, he's quite a force to be reckoned with, but it's not a Riven, it's not a Fiora, it's not someone that's going to single-handedly carry a team fight. Subatomic has to get big, Brixton has to get big, and Flaxish has to get big, and that is... all three of them have to do well in order to provide what I would consider a good amount of damage to just single-handedly win these team fights out against the exceL lineup. Billy, we know he likes to go a bit of AP on the Malphite. I imagine he might go a little bit more tanky this time round, but you know, he does like to get a little bit of AP behind him. He does like to be a little bit more of that burst-orientated Malphite. And we saw Ped, just ridiculous damage coming out. And Lucian will always deal more damage in a skirmish than the Sivir.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I want to see on Billy, I don't think this is realistic, but knowing Billy, just maybe we'll see it. I want to see the Zhonya's Malphite. You get the armor for the lane from the Seeker's arm guard.
Good,
you
right?
get to go AP Malphite. It's a real thing, I swear. Maybe you won't see that, maybe. But
I think it's more likely that we might see an early Chalice come out, because yes, that'll deal well with Elise and with the Lulu. He probably might
or
not...
just the Catalyst either.
Yeah, I mean, he might not finish the Chalice or the Catalyst. Well, he will finish the Catalyst, but if he goes for Chalice, he won't finish the Chalice. Likely, he'll then just probably go full tank. I imagine he'll go armor first, then build in towards some magic resist. But I just favour the exceL lineup in the sense that I think it's got more threats. I've always talked about this when we were casting last week. When you run a composition that doesn't have that many threats, you're going to be struggling if you don't get ahead. And I don't think there are too many threats on the side of Exertus. Yes, I think Darius can be a threat. Yes, I think Lulu can be a threat. And yes, I do think Sivir can be a threat. But they do need to be ahead to be that kind of threat. Darius can run away with a good skirmish. And once he starts to run away, even if he goes tanky, he will be a monster. So I think, again, we're kind of putting eggs in Flaxus's basket this time round, because Lulu is a champion in the mid lane that isn't going to be this hard AP carry like Ped will be. He's more of a utility mid laner. But one thing we didn't note from Champ Select, it's a double teleport composition running out.
Yes, it is. Teleport Lulu as well.
I like it because it can turn the tide of a small skirmish. Should she get there in time and that person doesn't get immediately blown up, that skirmish will be turned. And what is more important is that he knows he's probably not going to be A, under threat from Ped in lane, and B, he's probably not going to kill Ped in lane. So why would he need a defensive summoner, and why would he need an offensive summoner? He's just going to farm up and try and make impact happen across the map. It's a little bit harder to roam as Lulu, especially against Ped on this Anivia, because you know, Ped will just be able to clear waves very easily, and Lulu isn't exactly the most ridiculously impact team roaming champion, but you can roam with teleport very easily and have an immediate impact. So I like this from Brixton. I like the double competition. It makes controlling the map is going to be a much higher priority here for exceL. The only thing that I think is going to go in favour of exceL is if they manage to keep this a standard lane setup, they manage to keep a lot of the early fights around Dragon, then Ped is going to be able to react to them anyway. Because Billy does have teleport as well. So obviously Billy's going to be able to teleport down and make his way to these team fights. But again, these compositions are quite similar than we've seen before. Exertusvs have a semi-pick composition, but they have something to follow up on the pick this time. They have something to follow up and survive in team fights if they make that pick. exceL just running from basically exactly the same as previous.
Yeah.
You know, there's not much to say about it. Every champion is the same except for Billy. And Billy's not going to provide that damage he did on Gangplank, but he will provide a lot more engage and control, so they can probably just isolate someone before they even have the chance.
I feel like if you want to pick a champion to sort of show an example of hard engage, Malphite is that champion. Like, pretty much the hardest engage that you get. Billy going to be using that one up in the top lane. We're going to see very, very standard starts. Both bottom lanes going to be kicking off with the Krugs and Gromp, respectively. And in the meantime, these mid laners just going to be trying to shove in on one another, just trying to deny as much CS as possible in this early stage of the game.
I was just talking with Vedius, who's one of our other casters for the ESL Premiership, and he said this reminds me of the TSM composition that they ran Olaf Lulu. And I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It's a very similar composition and runs in a similar kind of style, but Darius just isn't the same kind of threat as Olaf is, because Olaf can ignore all CC, all control, and run straight onto your carry. Darius just can't do that. Darius can get locked up by CC, and he has to be, because he's so low mobility, you have to get him into that position straight away to be able to be a threat.
Yeah, but then again, with that Lulu, is he still considered to be that low mobility? Obviously, you have that Whimsy to get you that incredible movement speed buff to get you straight into those fights, and we'll see if they're going to be able to make that eventuality a reality in this game, as Ped taking a little bit of poke here from Brixton, already having to use one of those total biscuits of rejuvenation. We'll see. I mean, honestly, mid lane wise, I don't really anticipate all that much action coming out.
No, I actually think the best place for exceL to put their pressure down is going to be in this bot lane again from Nesquik. Nesquik was really good at applying pressure to this bot lane of the exceL lineup, and actually I think that was the single most important thing that snowballed that game, because Jokerism was such a threat. It was so difficult for Exertusvs to target someone on the team, because Ped became a threat, Billy became a threat, and Jokerism became a threat. And when they had the Ribbon, you really have to target one of those, unless you're very lucky with your positioning. Anyway, Dan has spotted out that Nesquik is at his blue. He's going to try and make something happen at bot, but they do have the ward. They're going to back off. And this is going to be fairly even. You know, Nesquik can make his way down through that side brush at the bot lane again.
Yeah, he could go for that kind of play. Once again, we've seen it work for them. That's exactly how they got the ball rolling last game. And I mean, that's one of the key things when you're playing that Echo jungle, is to get that ball rolling. If you can get a couple of kills behind you, you suddenly become an incredibly strong champion.
Yeah, and Ped suffering a little bit early on against the Lulu. That would be expected. If Lulu can get the Glitter Lance down and also start applying auto attack, she actually can be fairly strong in harass, but the further this lane goes, Ped's going to be more and more safe. And they're already starting to apply pressure to top lane against Billy. Billy does have flash though.
He does indeed, and he might just need it. Flashes away. Oh no, he flashed the Q coming out from Elise there. It wasn't the cocoon, but Dan doesn't end up using the cocoon anyway. There was a minion wave in the way, so he's going to be able to escape from that tricky situation, but actually we just see immediately Dan looping around into the dry brush once again. Nesquik is on his way, but is it going to be too late?
Again,
dodges the cocoon, dodges Darius as well, and that is going to be a nice easy walk away from Billy.
Billy's very safe though. He has got that cost 5 start as well. Oh, Ped already putting pressure onto Brixton. Look at the mana bar on Brixton too, and Ped has got full mana at this point in time. So, oh, this is such a... I just love Ped on Anivia because I just think it's a champion that suits his playstyle so well. He doesn't need to roam that much. He just needs to farm up, and then he starts to control team fights, which is just what Ped is so good at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so far, both mid laners having to use all of their pots and everything, and both going to be heading back to base. We see Ped picking up his tier of the Goddess, and we'll see what Brixton answers with. It is going to be that Fiendish Codex and a whole heap of wards to get some vision control of the map. And importantly, using that teleport to get back into lane to try and pull himself an advantage out here. And despite heading back to base, yeah, despite being the second one to base though, he is going to be in lane already.
Yeah, and he's going to start pushing Ped into the tower again, but Ped doing so well CSing on Anivia. I always find it so difficult to CS on Anivia because her auto-attack animation is so slow to wind up.
Yeah.
But I got to say, Ped has been doing a great job. He does play the champion.
Watch.
Yeah. Let's just watch him right now.
All of the pressure on Ped right now. Is he going to be able to get the cannon minion? He does. Uses the E onto the caster, misses the melee, and the Q comes out. It's going to be able to take them down, and he got about, I don't even know, about 5 out of 8, I think.
That was
not
beautiful.
Not bad
That
effort.
was the most exciting piece of action I have seen all day, Munch, and you just cast that so beautifully.
Yeah. It were really good, that. But we are going to see a nice spell shield coming out from Subtomic there in the bottom lane to put that one out. Just blocking the Winter's Bite, making sure that he doesn't get caught up. No more pressure going to be able to come out from exceL. The second one is going to land, though. Jokerism doesn't want to go too aggressive. You can't really afford to be too aggressive up against the Thresh.
No, I agree. And actually, Subatomic and Wiz have been doing a pretty good job of staying stable, but look at Nesquik. He knows that this is the lane where he needs to have an impact, and he's already made his way down. Dan actually going to take the Krugs and back off, so he's not going to be there for the counter gank. Subatomic and Wiz are very scared at this point in time, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And the minion wave is slowly but surely pushing towards them, though, so they should be in a decent position. The death sentence doesn't quite... I feel like Jokerism could have just allowed himself to get hit by that.
Yeah, maybe he could have baited that one through. Nesquik knows he's probably not going to get much done here. Subatomic and Wiz are playing so defensively, but playing really well to keep up on CS, because it looks like the lane is firmly in favor of Jokerism and exabyte, but they're only 7 CS behind, although they are pushing the lane into to Jokerism at this point in time.
Yeah, we'll see if they're going to be able to pull any kind of lead out of this one. So far it is going to be Jokerism taking the lead, 13 CS up ahead of his opponent. I wouldn't be too surprised to see them just trying to shove this one under tower, try and deny as much CS from Subatomic as possible in this situation. But again, we see Nesquik trying to exert pressure across the map, but not really been so successful just yet.
With the exception of top lane, every lane is being dictated here by exceL. Ped has control of that mid lane. He's making sure the waves are in his favor, and he's being fairly comfortable there. Bot lane is really in favor of Jokerism and exabyte. Despite the CS advantage not being too great, you can see that all of the lane is almost controlled by the exceL guys. Dan really aggressive going for the red buff here. He does have smite. He should get that away. Nesquik's going to see this one out. He's going to see him taking that red buff. I don't think he's going to go.
He's a level behind. Nesquik is 1 level behind Dan there, who has already hit that level 6 point and decides he can't even go for that engage. So Dan just able to waltz on into the enemy jungle and take away that red buff. So exceL starting to lose a little bit of map pressure here, starting to concede that one over to Exertusvs.
Yeah, so Nesquik is usually very strong at just putting pressure down across the map. I think he's been struggling to do that so far, because every lane has been quite passive. It's very hard to gank a Lulu, because she's just so easily going to be able to dodge your parallel convergence with her Glitterlance and with her Whimsy, and she can slow you down and then speed her up. Bot lane is firmly pushed into the Exertus tower. It's very difficult to make something happen there if it isn't a tower dive. And in the top lane, you know, Billy doesn't have that much damage in his back pocket, and you're going to be going up against Darius, who could quite easily turn against an Echo, especially post 6, and get a kill. And in the meantime, that nice jungle invade resulted in a lot of damage going down onto that tower for both Dan and Brixton. So they managed to get a lot there. Flaxis just looking to try and put some pressure onto Billy. Billy's going to have to go back here. Maybe if he teleports back to lane, that means that it'll spell time to go for the dragon for the Exertus guys. Yeah,
absolutely. We'll see if that eventuality does come to pass, but it is just looking like Billy will walk on up to his lane. He'll miss out on a little bit of CS for it, but they do not want to lose that dragon pressure. So important that they get that. But one play that Exertus could potentially exploit here is with Billy up in the top lane already, with the CS lead that Flaxish already had. Maybe they could have walked Flaxish over to try and get dragon pressure, but they look like they've decided that they are going to be heading straight back up to that top lane instead, not going for anything too aggressive at this point.
Yeah, this is such a tense game, and I think it's apt that it's the final game in our series. You know, First Blood still hasn't come down 10 minutes into the game. The first dragon hasn't yet been touched. Every team looking for that perfect opportunity to get the engage they so want. And I think around dragon fights, again, you have to probably say that exceL have a small advantage just because they have that Anivia, they have that control-based team fight again, and that's so powerful in enclosed spaces like Dragon. A little bit of a CS advantage starting to open up here for Jokerism, but he doesn't have a lot of mana left. If he actually misses those final 3 CS, he's going to have to back off as well. They haven't backed or burnt their pots. That's how passive this lane has been. They haven't backed or burnt their pots. Still on their Dorans and still on their first pot. So they're going to back off, and I think they're going to be looking to get control of this first dragon. That River Scuttler has been taken for exceL. Subtomic and Wiz are just going to try and push this lane out before they themselves head back.
Yeah, we'll see what these first items are going to be. We see a BF sword and a pickaxe coming out here for Jokerism. So a huge spike in damage. 3,100 gold in the pocket of Subtomic. So he'll be able to get a similar amount of damage. He is going to go for exactly the same buy. Not going for the boost, though. Opting to go for the second Doran's Blade. So kind of investing in the lane here.
Pushing that lane out with his ultimate. Going to clear the way very quickly, try and put some pressure onto this bot lane turret of Exertus. Dan's going to clear out that pink ward, and he's maybe looking to make something happen in this top lane. Nesquik is there, though. He's going to try and get some early damage down. I like this from Nesquik again. Whenever Dan tries to apply pressure to that top lane, Nesquik is now there to look after Billy, because Billy, you can see now his turret's taken a lot of damage already. He's practically half the CS of Flaxis on that Darius, and it is a very difficult lane to go up against. Even as a Malphite, you are going to struggle versus the Darius.
You are indeed, and I mean that's one of the things that you were saying in Champion Select anyway, that this lane was never going to be easy for Billy, and we do see, obviously, Dan is hanging around there. There's a ward on the other side of the wall, though, so he's not going to be able to go for anything like a tower dive this early stage in the game. I say early stage, we are 13 minutes in.
It just feels like the early stages, because very little, you know, has happened. And actually, Nesquik is going to help Billy push this top lane out. The great thing about Malphite, though, is that, yes, you can go behind, but you just need to be that ultimate bot in the team fight.
You just got to get tanky, that's kind of it.
Yeah. Flax is just pushing this lane so hard. Billy's going to have to give up this tower. My only worry now for exceL is that if Flaxish becomes a split push terror, I don't see Billy's going to have many ways to deal with it. Actually, Nesquik potentially going to get caught out here near his own turret. They're going to be going toe-to-toe.
Dan is going onto him, and it's going to be Billy slowed down by that chilling smite. But they decide to back away in the end. Billy, with very little mana, does not want to go for the fight. And this opens up this tower in the top lane. Flaxish going to be flaxing his muscles there, dominating this top lane. 50 CS lead as the tower goes down. Really, really comfortable. And this is something we've seen throughout the laning phases with Billy versus Flaxish. Flaxish has just done such a good job to consistently be ahead.
Yeah, Ped's starting to struggle on mana now, has to wait for that blue buff to come back up. Jokerism and Exabyte, again, they have that small advantage versus Subtomic and Wiz, but they're not able to make anything happen because of it. Subtomic on that Sivir, very defensive AD carry. Dan going to take the third red buff here away from Nesquik. He's getting a huge advantage in that jungle position. Nesquik's having to play babysit for his lanes at this point in time because he's not able to have an impact, but he's also having to save his lanes from having their turrets pushed. I think when Ped backs here, this will be mid lane turret going down. So this is going to be the 2 outer turrets going down here for the guys from exceL. Look at this, so little health left on the turret, and Dan and Brixton just repeating exactly what they did 5 minutes ago. Take away the red buff, take away a lot of damage onto this mid lane turret. Yes, this mid lane turret will go down now. So exceL are weathering the storm here, but they need to be careful that they don't get blown away.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, they have to make sure that they don't fall too far behind. They cannot afford to end up trying to climb back from a 3,000 gold lead. That's exactly what we saw in the first game of the day. They're already 2,500 gold behind. They can't really afford to be in the same situation. Last game, they were able to keep the gold even for pretty much the whole of the early game. But again, we saw them being so much more aggressive. We saw them making plays, being proactive across the entire map. We haven't really seen that same style coming out. But then on the other side, if you take a look at the composition, it is very team fight based. So far, they seem to just be waiting for that team fight phase.
Yeah, Ped's got that rod of ages now. I think, you know, they're fine with letting these towers go down early on because they have such a good controlled team fight. They aren't going to be too worried about getting this far behind early on because they know they're not exactly facing a huge snowball competition. My only worry again is look at Billy in the top lane. I don't think he's going to be having an easy time defending against Flaxish here.
That shield, though.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, with the Malphite shield as well, it's just huge.
It certainly is. But now we see a fight finally kicking off. Everybody down into the bottom lane dog pile as Dan is going to be trying to get in onto Nesquik. He's going to get slowed down, but the flash comes out from Flaxish. And now Nesquik is going to be the first one over onto the AD carrier. Now it's going to be Subtomic taking down exabyte for the 3rd kill. 2-1 in favor of Exertusvs. That was out of nowhere from 0 to 100.
Yeah, I mean, good ultimate there by Nesquik meant that he was able to get a bit of damage down. We'll have a quick look at that replay again now here. So anyway, you see a good engage onto exabyte. He manages to take a lot of damage instead of Jokerism here. Nesquik trying to do his best. Parallel convergence doesn't proc on anybody. Now, Dan's going really hard here. Nesquik hasn't procced his ultimate. No one is paying attention to Nesquik's ultimate, so immediately he jumps down back onto his ultimate, and no one paid attention, but Flaxish had his ultimate up, he had a lot of stacks down and was able to get a kill himself. But Jokerism gets the first blood, bit of gold in his back pocket, and actually Billy manages to get a bit of an advantage again, or not, you know, manages to regain a bit of an advantage in that top lane. And Ped's done a pretty good job of pushing down that mid lane turret too.
Yeah, one thing that could be really key in these next couple of minutes of the game is Brixton was able to force Ped into that Egnivia form. He was able to force out that passive when they both tried to roam down. So that could be crucial as the dragon is going to be stolen away by Dan. Terrible news for exceL. He's going to repel. Oh, and there's the dark passage coming out from Wisdom. Now Pin caught out without his passive. He's trying to do what he can with that ultimate, having to flash away, but Flaxish is waiting for him. Gets 3 of them. Oh, exceL, they're falling apart. Exabyte going to be going down. Billy, the last man standing. The stacks are coming out here from Flaxish, and he has to use that unstoppable force just to get away. Disaster for exceL.
No, we need to have a quick look at that again because that was a dragon fight that they started. This has happened time and time again. Dan has just been a huge monster on smiting. Early smite came out from Nesquik, and look at Wizzy U again with a dark passage, managing to get Dan out, and Ped isolated, no Egnivia. Like you said, that was so important here because now he tries to escape, flashes out, but Flaxish is there to do the damage, and now everyone else is just isolated. They're completely stuck between a rock and a hard place, no pun intended with the Malphite, and he manages to only just escape with that unstoppable force. They got pincered there by Flaxish. Everyone barreled into that pincer, and just disaster struck there for exceL.
Did indeed, and disaster might just have struck for Dan as he's slowed down. Concussive blows aren't going to be enough to lock him up just yet, though, and the wave play is going to be there from Brixton to get them away from danger. Ped just easily able to clear these waves, but Flaxish is there. A nice wall from Ped, but he's pulled up right against it. He's going to be going down to that Noxian guillotine, and now exabyte is going to be the next target. Manages to jump underneath his tower, though. One more auto attack will remove that objective. In the meantime, we do see Jokerism trade 1 back, but it's just not enough.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Darius 303 had a 90% almost kill participation. The 4th red buff being stolen away from Nesquik here. And I got to be honest, Flaxish on Darius, yes, Darius isn't going to be a huge threat, but when you're 303, you've already finished your Black Cleaver, you're starting to be a monster in terms of levels, then yes, you just are going to be a threat just through pure level advantage. And you're seeing this here, he's in the right place at the right time. A little bit like when we saw him on Fiora, he was just in the right place, in the right time, and just able to have that impact in the team fights. And Ped, I still think he can recover because he is a Nivea. He's got 177 farm. Once he manages to finish that Archangel staff, he will be in a really solid position. But it's going to be a lot of stalling now required by exceL. They're going to have to use their composition to do what it's made to do, which is stall, stall, stall.
Certainly is, and honestly, exceL are looking to try and do their best broken car impression right now because, as you say, they just need to stall, stall, stall. And we'll see if they're going to be able to. Exertus so far have been just in complete control of the map. We've seen Dan now take away 3 red buffs completely on his own. And that's purely off the back of how well Flaxish has been doing in the top lane. There's just nothing that Billy can do to help Nesquik secure that objective. And across the board, the CS not quite as in favor of Exertus as you would expect with them having this kind of control of the map. We're going to see Ped is eking ahead in the mid lane. The AD carries are almost exactly even. So they're not able to get too much on the board. It's all about Flaxish right now. You were saying in Champion Select, all of the eggs are in that basket. He's 303, he's 70 CS up. He needs to carry right now, and he might just have found his target as Billy gets caught by a death sentence. A really nice Anivia ult, though, is going to block them all off. They can't go through that danger zone.
Yeah, I mean, exceL just don't have the damage to deal with the Exertus lineup here. Billy just having to get away from that hook. They're being bullied around now by the Exertus guys. You know, Flaxish, like I said, you said, yeah, he's now got a serious amount of magic resist in his pocket with the Mercury Treads and the Spirit Visage. He's also got that Black Cleaver, so he's a damage threat too. And Lulu's having a huge impact in these fights. Anyone that gets caught out by Pedrillion's stun is immediately going to have a wild growth pop with them. So they're not going to get burst the same way they did previously. Billy,
beautiful combo. The wall was perfect. Flaxish is in the thick of it. Can they kill him though? The wild growth is keeping him alive for so long. He's finally getting low. Nobody has fallen just now as the chrono break comes through for Exabyte, not for Exabyte, for Nesquik. But nobody goes down in all of that. Flaxish is so tanky.
Had Lulu been banned again, Flaxish would have died.
Yeah.
Straight away, and Lulu was just turning what exceL had previously was these huge catches, and those catches were extremely important. They basically, oh wow.
Ped is gonna be going down. Nivea is gonna be cracked right open. All of Exertus have their soldiers out and they're ready to dip into that yoke as they take the second tier 2 tower of the game. And honestly, Dragon up in 53 seconds. Exertus, they've got their pick of the litter on what they want to take on this map right now.
Yeah, I think exceL's lineup is a bit soft-boiled at the moment because they're really struggling to hit their key points. They need to get a lot more damage in the bag before they can contest what Exertus are managing to do in these team fights. I mean, it's again, Flaxish is just a monster. You saw there, got Ped isolated, he pulled him back in. Ped had no way of escaping. Did have that flash up, I think, but you know, even if he did, he was dead anyway. You know, he would have died in some way or somehow. Flashes were available for Exertus as well, and the bot lane just doesn't have the same advantage that they had previous either. Jokerism just doesn't have that big advantage over Subtomic. Subtomic's actually got an entire item and boots up on him. Nesquik's going to be the target of Brixton.
Yeah, Brixton is going to be stunned out though. Ped able to use those stuns from Anivia. And this is one of the things about Anivia. Not only are you going to be able to stall in terms of wave management, in terms of clearing those minions, but you can also stall in terms of saving your teammate with that wall, with that stun. You just have so much utility to offer. But Brixton actually taking a huge amount of damage. Nesquik having to use that chrono break as the flash comes out from Ped. He doesn't quite have damage to get through the wild growth though, as Wiz gets stunned up. They still can't quite finish any of these kills off. They just don't have the damage yet.
Oh, those flashes were so key as well for Exertus. Had those been burnt in the previous fight, that would have been a small air of, I guess, hope for the exceL lineup to get something from that skirmish. But they lose the dragon and they don't manage to get the kills either. So I mean, look, exceL have a lineup that stalls so well. They've got a really good stalling lineup here. They've got the Anivia, like I said. Billy will always be useful. He's actually gone for that Thorn Mail second item, so basically saying I'm scared of Sivir and Darius more than I am Lulu, which I think is very fair. So, I mean, they have the ability to take this to the late game, and if they get to the late game, I do favour them. I do think that they have that late game composition again, but Ped is having a tough time. He is being targeted, and I think, I just don't think Exertus took this Anivia mid as seriously as they should have done last game, but this time they know that it is a huge problem, and this time they are looking to put the pressure down onto Pedrolian, and he is being targeted in these fights. They're actually ignoring Jokerism almost completely, so you know, I really like the way that Exertus is playing this, but it's not over yet. The gold advantage is big, I agree, but it's not completely over. Pedrolian again on the wrong side of nowhere.
But look at that Anivia wall just denying any kind of engage from Exertus. We were talking last game about how intact exceL's mental fortitude was coming in, like off the back of that first loss. They were able to come in and still be strong. On the other side of that coin, maybe last game, Exertus were kind of a little bit overconfident, coming in a little bit cocky. They kind of ended up losing out in that second game, and it might just have been because, I mean, you saw how aggressive Flaxish was multiple times throughout the game, getting caught out because he was in these bad positions, because he was kind of being a little bit over-aggressive. Now we're seeing this Exertus that isn't making those mistakes. They're not going over-aggressive, and they're not getting out of position. And they're just incredibly so far ahead. 8,000 gold lead already accrued for them. Honestly, it's like a completely different team to what we saw last game.
I think this is actually the most even of the games. You may think it funny me saying that. Oh, as you say that, it's Jokerism.
Flash coming out from Jokerism immediately, just diving away from that tower. Does not want to get caught. Subtonic takes the Dark Passage out. Brixton stunned up, and the mid lane is going to go down. This is fantastic for exceL. As Dan trying to escape, Nesquik jumping straight back onto him, but does not want to commit. Just smites his Spiderlings to add insult to injury. And they might not be able to get anything off it, but it's a fantastic pick for exceL.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think this is probably one of the more even games that we've seen here from the two teams. There isn't a clear favourite. I would say that Exertus is definitely a favourite, you know, based on their gold lead and how they're affecting these team fights. But there isn't like isn't like we saw in the first game where it was a one-sided stomp, and the second game that eventually became that kind of one-sided stomp. exceL are holding on here, and they are getting the picks that they need, and they are still surviving, which is really, really important. I think Jokerism has to be very careful here because he is in a fully lit up jungle, and he knows it. He's going to get out.
Yeah, Jokerism, I feel like his positioning over the last just the last 5 minutes of the game has been a little bit questionable. Maybe needs to sort of shake his head a little bit, slap himself in the face, wake up a little bit.
I don't think it's been awful, because in that top lane, he knew he had flash, and he was able to escape that gank, and they get the return kill for it. So it wasn't awful. You know, when you're sat under your top lane turret and you don't have the kind of vision that you need, it is a little bit hard to predict that Sivir ultimate coming through. Billy has to be careful, though. But yeah, I agree. Maybe just be a little bit more switched on. Make sure you're not going to get caught out by that Sivir ultimate under tower again, because it can happen. You are facing a pretty tanky team. But they will fall off. I think that's what exceL are hoping for here. You know, the team that they are facing right now, they will definitely fall off.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, there are no more damage items coming through for Darius. He is no longer getting damage spikes. That Black Cleaver has come through, and that is all that he needs. He has got the teleport over Billy, though, so you have to remember that they can just force Baron now, and Billy will have to walk across the map, whereas Flaxish can teleport. My issue with that is that actually Billy could stop the teleport if he follows Flaxish enough. He probably will give up his own life, but maybe a 4v4 could be won by exceL.
But the question then is, if Billy gives up his life, what do they also give up? And Flaxish, with the amount of AD he's got, is more than capable of taking towers out.
And he's going for Billy as well. You can see it here in the bot lane.
Yeah, Billy maybe in a little bit of trouble. He does have a lot of armor. Flaxish still going for it anyway, just trying to get what damage he can down. Actually, Billy forced to flash away from that one.
Yeah,
so Flaxish just exerting so much pressure.
Yeah, burning through there is the ultimate coming through from Jokerism, again using it to clear the waves. They're not going to try and force the Baron despite Billy's flash and the fact that he might not have teleport. Billy's got a 2-level disadvantage as well over Flaxis, but like we said, you know, Flaxis is Darius. He has gone full tank. He will eventually fall off. So there is a lot of hope left for exceL. They're definitely not out of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. But the question is, how soon will they fall off? Can exceL hold on long enough to stay in this game? They're certainly behind on gold, but so far, I mean, in the last kind of 5-10 minutes, we've not really seen Exertus manage to pull any more objectives out. They've got those tier 2 towers in the mid and bottom lane, but since then, they haven't really been able to achieve anything. The next dragon is about to spawn. There's already 2 in favor of Exertus, but actually Exertus are looking to make a play. Flaxish with the home guard teleport. Ped in all sorts of trouble. A nice flash. Can he get the kill onto Wiz? He might just be able to do it. Ignivia is in the house right now as the Wild Ghost comes through onto Wiz. He's gonna fall to the tower. No, he's not. He survives. It's a double kill going through for Flaxish. He turns it into 3, and it's Atomic that picks up the final kill. Absolutely massive for Exertus. They found the chink in the armor from exceL, and now they move to Baron.
Yeah, and this should be a free Baron here for Exertus. Ped isolated, they knew who to target. They've definitely been more switched on from the previous game in the series that they played against the Anivia. They know that it is a real threat. And again, this is going to be a huge blow to the guys from exceL. They're going to have to be so careful. But again, it's just Lulu right at that last moment, absolutely brilliant. Oh, Jokerism.
Yeah, Jokerism already using his heal. He's going to be polymorph. I don't think there's much way of him getting away, but Brixton actually could be in trouble. The Cullen comes out, but there isn't quite the damage. Brixton maybe feared for his life a little bit there. And it's going to be Billy now pushing out in this bottom lane. The home guards are there for Flaxish, but it looks like he might just be able to get this down. No, the teleport comes out. Actually, double teleport. This could be bad news. No, they don't chase onto Billy. They are going to... Or do they? Actually, Brixton is going to be chasing onto him. There's an immediate unstoppable force coming out, but he's slowed by the glitter lance. Brixton trying to finish this one off. Oh, wow, bro! He had it off cooldown. I thought it was on cooldown, but Billy could be in all kinds of trouble. He's doing a lot of damage to Brixton, but he is going to be going down here. Really nice play from Brixton on that Lulu, finding themselves yet another pick. And now Nesquik, trying to help out his teammate, has found himself in an unfavorable position. He has that chrono break available, going to be using that immediate...
He didn't use it quick enough.
He used the stun, but the chrono break just used it on himself, jumping over that wall. Nesquik pretty much just trying to buy time at this point. A little bit of lag coming out there from Nesquik, but he's finally going to get caught up by that apprehend. He's going to get caught up by the Noxian Guillotine. The dot is ticking. Is it going to be enough? The health potion's there. I think he might be able to walk away from this one, but here comes the rest of the team. He's going to be able to jump over the wall. He's trying to make a great escape. Nesquik, this is the best example of fancy feet I've seen in a long time. Subatomic finally catches up. That Phantom Dancer coming into play. Nesquik didn't even have tier 2 boots there. Oh my, I thought that was going to be a glorious escape. Unfortunately, finally going down. The Baron is in the hands of Exertus, and now they head towards the mid lane.
Yeah, this is going to be a very easy push here. There's no Nesquik to prevent the tower dive coming down on the inhibitor turret. And again, this is just being a story of just trying to shut down this Anivia on Ped, and it's worked. Flax is going straight in.
Oh, Ped just gets obliterated. Billy, the tankiest member, is going to fall as well. I say tankiest member, and tanky enough as Jokerism nice dodge away from the apprehend. Flashes forward for the kill onto Brixton, and he's going to be able to find it, but Subatomic critting on through. Chunks down his health bar. Exabyte going to go down for the double kill onto Subatomic. That 17-year-old AD carry doing so much work for his team. And now they push in. The first Nexus tower is going to be falling. There's nothing Nesquik can do to defend this one. Subatomic going to be DPSing down. The second tower falls. The Nexus is going to fall. And the series is going to go over to Exertus Esports 2-1 over exceL.
Yeah, I mean... That was, again, a very close game at the start, and I think exceL did really well to stall that one out. They had to stall it out. That was their only game plan that they had left. You had to use Ped to stall it out, but Exertus knew that. every time Ped was even a sliver out of position, and I'm not even saying he was out of position for most of it. Against the Sivir, it's hard to be in position. You know, and they just barreled in on Ped time and time again, tried to put the pressure down onto him, and it was just so difficult for Ped to survive, especially against Flaxish, who was just so far ahead, sped up with the Lulu, then slows down anybody that he's near with that Lulu ultimate as well. I mean, I got to say, they'd banned Lulu for 2 games, and then they opted not to ban Lulu. They opted to leave Lulu open, and that was immediately first picked by Exertus, and Brixton made the best use of that. I don't think it was much of an issue in lane, but when you came to these small skirmishes, especially when your tanky top lane champion, who it can be a serious damage threat if he gets that far ahead, was just that far ahead.
Yeah, he was that damage threat.
You combo that with a Lulu, they were just rolling around with that Sivir ultimate, stomping left, right, and center. And I think exceL definitely could have made their way back in, but Exertus turned on that screw, made sure that they were squeezing the life out of every given opportunity. Every single tower that they could, they would be diving. And to be honest, Nesquik dying right at the end there just gave free roam for the inhibitor turret to go down. They had again, I've got to talk about wave management. They had that wave pushing up. They knew that they could commit to take out Nesquik, because then they could roll down with that huge minion wave in the mid lane. And like I said, without Nesquik there's nothing stopping Exertus going for that tower dive, which they did, and it just ended the game.
It certainly did, and massive congratulations to Exertus, honestly showing a phenomenal performance. And I mean, the same goes to exceL.
Yeah.
It was such a close series. I mean, I think the only one-sided game there was the first game. It did look a little bit one-sided to Exertus, but then exceL did such a good job to come in, win the second game, and unfortunately, that last one, slowly but surely, eked out from that one. Now, we have had, as we've mentioned earlier, we've had a raffle going on today
for 2 tickets to the London World Finals hosted by Riot Games. And we do have a winner, I believe, Munch.
We do indeed. The winner of our 2 London quarterfinal tickets. It is going to be Pedal Sam 123 from Twitch chat. So Pedal Sam, make sure you check your Twitch messages after this game, as you've won yourself 2 tickets to the London quarterfinals of the World Championship this year. So massive congratulations to you. But unfortunately, from me, from exScoundrel, and from the rest of the production crew, it is going to be good night, as we have reached the end of the stream. So until next time, we'll see you around.